Welcome to Created Healthy. I'm Dawn Combs. It's a common idea that God gave us everything we need in nature, but do we believe it enough to walk that out in truth? Often the very same people who say this go looking for answers on how to use food and medicine from man-made sources. Everything man creates comes with a user's manual. Why would God be any different? I challenge you to join me in seeking revelation about our body, mind, soul, and spirit health by digging into His written word and in practicing pure science in the visible world of His creation. Because every house has to have a foundation, it was laid strongly on my heart to start this podcast with a daily series. I am using the book, The Bible in 52 Weeks, which you can buy for men or for women. I invite you to read along with me. Today we are in Exodus chapter 8 through 11, and this is a great day for Bible trivia if you've ever played it. We're going to go over all the plagues one by one. So the first plague is frogs. This is happening as Pharaoh is still denying that the Israelites can leave. And so Moses is coming before him every day and telling him this is something bad's going to happen. So the first day is the frogs. They appear, they swell up out of the Nile. They're in every cooking pot. They're in everybody's homes. They're all over. And Moses goes into the Pharaoh, and the first thing that he does with these plagues is the Pharaoh, he turns to his magicians and asks them to duplicate what's happened. So he's looking to other humans to explain this nature phenomena that's happening, and when they're able to duplicate it, it's either explained in his head as this is something that can be manipulated by humans, or this is something that our known gods have some sort of control over. So this first plague, the frogs, are something that the magicians are able to duplicate. So Moses goes in, and Pharaoh is not impressed by all the frogs everywhere, but he says, fine, my God will get rid of them all. You name the time. And he goes out. He gets a time from Pharaoh. He goes out from Pharaoh, and at the time that Pharaoh named, not when God decided to, but when Pharaoh named, God caused all of the frogs to disappear. And so that's pretty interesting to feel like, well, what I said just happened. But it says that Pharaoh hardened his heart, and he did not allow the Israelites to go. The next plague is gnats, and the very annoying little tiny bugs are everywhere in everybody's eyes and mouths and in big swarms. And at this point, Moses goes to Pharaoh, and the magicians cannot duplicate this. So this is starting to look to Pharaoh in real time like this is not something that can be manipulated. I don't know why the magicians couldn't make gnats, because I seem to be able to make gnats out of nothing in my kitchen, and it's not really a miracle. But for some reason, they aren't able to produce gnats. I could have helped them. This is more impressive because the magicians can't duplicate. And the magicians themselves are now saying, this isn't us, and it's not our gods. So I think it's the Hebrew God. Like this is a real other God thing. Something else is happening here. But Pharaoh's heart is hardened for him, and he says, after the gnats go away, he says, nope, still not doing it. We're keeping them. Keeping your people here. The next plague are flies, and they are everywhere in thick clouds except in the land of Goshen. And these flies are biting flies. I would say if you look up the data on what biting flies can do to livestock, They actually reduce their growth levels. They hold back the development of livestock and cripple their health when they are in large numbers. And so this isn't just an irritation. This is also impacting all of their own produce. So Pharaoh is pretty annoyed here, and he's somewhat impressed, but he says, fine, you guys can sacrifice to your God, but you got to sacrifice in the land of Goshen. And this is where I mentioned this before, when Joseph was settling his family in Goshen. He had already laid the groundwork that they were to be set apart because they were shepherds. And they remained apart because they were so different in being shepherds and the way that they sacrificed the firstborn. And so Moses says here, yeah, that's not going to work. We can't sacrifice in the land because all of the Egyptians are already mad at us, and we already have strife with our neighbors. And if we start sacrificing the firstborn, they're going to stone us. This is going to cause major civil unrest in your country. So we've got to be able to go 3 days out and do what I said. And Pharaoh says no. The next plague is the livestock dying, and all of the livestock dies except for the livestock in Goshen again. But Pharaoh has his heart hardened, and he doesn't budge. The next plague are boils. Moses throws silt, sandy silt and ash up into the sky in front of Pharaoh. And the next day, everybody breaks out into boils. Very uncomfortable. If you've ever had a boil, it is swelling, and pus fills up underneath, and it pushes out on the skin, and it hurts, and you're not going to be able to do anything. So here Pharaoh he's being more and more impacted from an economic standpoint as well as physical discomfort. But still, it says his heart was hardened, and he doesn't let them go. The next one was hail. Now this time, Moses gives warning. God has him give warning, and I think this is really interesting. He flat out says, it's a really cool model here, believe me and be saved. Believe what I'm saying from God, and you and all of your livestock can be, and all of your people and all of your slaves can be saved. But unfortunately, hail comes down, and it takes out the harvest that's ready right then. None of the hail comes down in Goshen. It kills animals, it kills slaves, it kills Egyptians, people that are out in it. This hail is so horrific. It also comes with thunder and lightning. It says fire comes down from the sky. So a horrific storm. It leaves the wheat and the spelt only because the wheat and the spelt has not come to head in the fields, and so the wheat and the spelt would be able to continue to develop, but it takes the other crops. But it says that Pharaoh sins again and hardens his heart and says, no, you can't go. The next plague are locusts, and God says, I have hardened Pharaoh's heart for the stories that you'll tell. So the locusts come, and here they eat everything else that had been spared from the hail. This is a showing of mercy here too, because the hail, if Pharaoh had let the Israelites go, they would have still had wheat and spelt to harvest. And because he didn't, then the next thing comes and takes everything. And I see this a lot in life. I'll take a little bit and give you a chance, and I'll take a little bit more and give you a chance before everything kind of goes from your hands. So the locusts come, they are wiping everything out. Huge, massive economic response here. And Pharaoh gets really upset and says, fine, go. But oh, who's going? And Moses says, well, we got to take everybody and all of our livestock because we don't know what God's going to ask us to sacrifice. We have to take everything that we own with us to go out and worship God. And Pharaoh says, oh, no, that doesn't work for me. You can't take your animals and you can't take your kids. The adults can go out. And he says no. After the locusts are swept into the Red Sea, he has his heart hardened again. This is followed by darkness that happens for 3 days, which would be another hit here. So we've got major economic impact. We've got irritation and pain that has happened so far. And now darkness, which is going to hit at a culture that is a major source of the sun cult. Ra, they worship Ra. Well, if Ra disappears for 3 days at the behest of this Hebrew god, it's now going to cause spiritual crises for people that are paying attention. 3 days of darkness. It says they couldn't even see where they were going in their own houses. And so Pharaoh calls Moses in and says, all right, everyone can go but your herds. And Moses says, no, I'm sorry. It's got to be all of us. You have to let us go. And Pharaoh bursts into this violent anger and says, if you ever see my face again, you will die. And Moses said, yes. In fact, you will never see me again. And the Lord hardens Pharaoh's heart, and he insists that it is economically important to hold on to these people who aren't his citizens, but who are getting money into his coffers. And also, he's trying so hard to keep control over the situation to assert his power. But the more he's holding on, the more he's losing. So if he had a legitimate reason to hold on at the beginning, it has now completely been wiped away, and now it's just spite. So Moses is told by God to gather the Israelites so that he announces this in their hearing. They need to go and ask their neighbors for gold and silver, and he tells Pharaoh in the hearing of the people that God is going to kill all of the firstborn of Egypt. And so this is where our section ends, and the people know that this is coming. Pharaoh knows that this is coming, but doesn't seem to still believe. And what I want to look back at is this sense of a heart that's hardened. I think that we can definitely identify this is a sin that there are places in the Bible and even in this passage where it says that God has hardened someone's heart. But on the whole, it is something that we do on our own. It is a sin of cutting ourselves off from God, of turning away, of withholding our love and communication to God as if we're punishing him. And hardening your heart is very literally refusing to see God in the things that are right in front of you. It is a decision to deny the evidence that is right in front of your eyes, to deny that God exists in or is responsible for what you're seeing. And so I see this a lot in modern day science. We are hardening our hearts with following a science that tells us that God does not exist, and that what they are coming up with is in fact true, and what we are seeing in front of our face in nature is not true, and it's a fairy tale. That is hardening of your heart. Choosing to eat food that God didn't create is hardening of your heart. It is turning away from God and literally rejecting the evidence of God right in front of you, refusing to believe and trust God. And Pharaoh hardens his heart at his own peril and at the peril of his people. As this progresses, he loses more and more. And hardening of the heart is the same thing for us today. The more we refuse to see what is right in front of us, to see the Holy Spirit in nature speaking to us, to see design right around us in our own bodies, in reflection in nature, reflection in the animals, reflection in plants, and consuming the things that God gave us, we are hardening our heart, and it affects how we are able to hear God. When our tissues are hardened, they don't resonate. They do not vibrate. And when we harden our heart space is where we communicate with our divine creator. And it creates separation, which creates illness. I pray that you are being blessed today and all days, and that He works in your heart to look all around you and see His very obvious evidence, and to soften your heart and bring you back again tomorrow. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share with a friend. And I'm always interested in hearing what God is laying on your heart. So drop me a rating or review, or join the conversation on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube at Dawn Combs Really.